You don't need expansions. Yeah, I'm like the big channels, only I'm smaller and more snarky. One of the best games of Q1 2025. Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, hell yeah, we're going for it. Where are my thoughts already this year? And why is this year actually pretty freaking good so far? Yeah, let's go. We'll talk about the things that I've played and a whole separate video for the top crowdfunding campaigns. And then I might even just separate it out as well. I did an end of the year board games awards. Like I just made up my own awards and gave them all different titles and things like that. And it was pretty freaking fun to do. And I think you guys enjoyed it. So we'll probably do that one too. So how much can I milk this sucker for? Yeah, I'm like the big channels, only I'm smaller and more snarky. Let's go. Now, we're going to play this game of no particular order. And how likely is it to remain on this list, say, in 3 months when we're halfway through 2025? And how likely is it to be there at the end of the year? Because the great thing about this is that this list is going to dramatically change. Because games like Agent Avenue and Seven Wonders Duel, Lord of the Rings style, completely obliterated several games on my list at the beginning of the year that just couldn't hang around until the end of the year. And most of these qualifier, asterisks, meaning that they're going to be new games from 2025. There will be a few small touches of games that were new to me from 2024, or one or two from even potentially earlier, because sometimes you do find those and they really stand out and we really need to talk about them. But this is in no order, so I'm not spoiling things, so you can't tell where this list is going to be at the end of the year, because otherwise, I mean, I can't give you all the spoilers in this video, right? Okay, no particular order. Number 1, Marvel United Multiverse. Is he really doing it in that order? You know he loves Marvel United. You know he loves Marvel United Multiverse. You know he loves that system as a whole. And you know he's got all of DC coming. It's great. It's going to be ranking up there for one of the most played games of the year for me, just like it was in 2024. Are all the expansions equal? No. Have I played them all? No. Have I maximized them all out in terms of character capacity, or which villains are my favorites, or which ones are the hard ones, or why the villains are the best part of this game in the first place is a unique, simple system from Eric Lang. Thank you, Eric Lang, in the first place. And yes, I don't mind the chibis. Yes, I like the artwork in the first place as well. So yeah, it strikes all of those chords. Enough said. Next up, Yomi number 2. I have a type. 2-player head-to-head duelers. Paper, Scissors, Rock, Lizard, Spock says Yomi 2 is better than Yomi 1. Steam tested, Liege approved. And that's because it gives us a little bit more of a streamlined situation of getting rid of some of the, just fiddliness. The just trying to remember what combos with what and how you fold these things together and make them work. They're doing more with less, not less with more, like I said in the first outtake. And that's something good. Now, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And the price point for the all-in on the crowdfunding campaign was massive. But I don't look at it as any different than, say, something like a Summoner Wars 2, which I love as well. It's just getting all of the Summoner Wars expansions up front, as opposed to piecemealing 2 every quarter or so as well in that regard. Then we're going with Compile Main, right? I finally got a copy. I love it. I got the expansion pack. Then they announced there's a new one, and this makes the old one obsolete. Just kidding, it doesn't. You can combine, you can mix and match, you can do all sorts of crazy things. The rulebook, I still have gripes about. The rulebooks, I'm still not a big fan of, because there's a lot of explanations and combo-driven just situations that aren't fully well explained, and the rules are just being, expounded upon over in the Board Game Geeks forums. So that does break the immersion for me as a whole, but it's a lane battling, card flipping, combo creating game, and it does a really good job of what it is in that regard. Then Dune Imperium Uprising gets more life with Bloodlines. I like it. What can I say? I had it on my wish list at the beginning of the year. I ended up trading for a copy, and I'm just a big fan of it as a whole. I like what it brings. Some people don't. I love the tech tiles. I love the commanders. Seems to be split. I'm just waiting for Dune Imperium Duel to be announced as well. Oh, he went there. Just because everything else is getting that treatment, and I feel like it needs to be mentioned in that regard. But if you're not a fan of Dune Imperium Uprising, this isn't going to change your mind. If you're not a fan of Dune Imperium in general, it's not going to change your mind. the main question I have now for someone like myself is someone who owns literally, well, not everything, but I own the major stuff. I own the original with the 2 expansions, and now I own the 2.0 version with the expansion. Do you keep one and get rid of the other? That's the big conundrum. But speaking of things as well, I just set it down here under a couple other games, so I'm not going to pick it up for you, but Marvel Dice Throne X-Men. Speaking of contenders for Marvel love, as well as contenders for one of the most playing games of the year, this is going to be right up there as my kids love this game, and they love the X-Men Incorporation. My kids don't read the comic books. My kids don't have the show background, but they know it vaguely from like games I play on my phone and, you know, pop culture in general. I'm not, as I was saying earlier, always the biggest fan of the artwork in this one, however, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me. I'm not one of those people where it's like, I can't get over it. I just can't. I don't like all the characters. It's a me thing, right? Same thing with Summoner Wars, though. You find ones that you like, you find ones that you click with. I like the gimmick of Gambit. I like the idea behind Psylocke, but neither of them fit me fully. You know, instead of Gambit, give me Strange. Instead of Psylocke, give me a Wolverine. I think Cyclops is always the redheaded stepchild in the, you know, Marvel universe as a whole. He gets the short shaft. He's always the bad guy, even though he's, you know, anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So Wolverine's fine. Jean Grey is powerful. Iceman is a really weird manipulator, but my kids love it and they're getting good at it. And it's usually, we play 3-person, so it's King of the Hill, me lose first every single time. So if you like that, well, you'll like that. Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, sitting right behind me. It's good. And like I said when I did my review, like I said when I heard what it was called, there will be more. There will be more. Mark my words, there will be more. And if you're not a fan of trick-taking, it's not going to appeal to you. If you want an easier entry point, you want more mixed matchability, you want just an easier go in, go out, I mean, go pick up the Crew Deep Sea. You're better off with the Crew Deep Sea. At the same time, I still love it for what it is. Is it going to stand the test of time? Yeah, I don't have a ton of really well adaptable trick takers, especially as I'm getting my family more involved with those. And so the Lord of the Rings Incorporation opens doors that other games that do not have that familiarity just can't, won't, or don't. And that is not an insignificant thing when we're talking about the hobby. I mean, look at the reason why so many companies are doing video game IP portovers, right? At the time of me filming this, Helldivers 2 is about to launch. And again, there's going to be a lot of walk-up traffic in these situations for people that like the video game because, again, it's something that we don't like to say all the time, but video games are a lot more popular. They are a freaking hell of a lot more popular. Everything is a hell of a lot more popular than board games. And so video games getting more attention, if the games are done really well, brings other people into the hobby scene in the first place. Get more people in, get more popular, get more money in there, get more games made, get more better games made. See how the dominoes fall? Not quite that easy or not quite that manner, but you know where I'm going with that. Then, a game you may have heard of, not from this past year as well, but it's called Trio. It's actually a different name in my household. It's called Nana because I imported the Japanese version because it's much cuter and the artwork is more appealing rather than just numbers with like holographic flashy symbols on the cards. And essentially all this game is, you get one of 3 actions on your turn, which is partially the name, but more importantly, the name comes from the set of cards that are numbered 1 through 12 that there are 3 of each that you were trying to collect in sets of, well, said 3. And you either have to reveal one of your cards, ask someone else to reveal one of theirs, or reveal one from the face down center marketplace, if you will. The trick being here is that similar to a scout type situation, you can only go from the ends. So you either ask someone else or yourself to reveal their highest or lowest. You can repeat that. I could ask myself to reveal my 2 lowest. I could ask someone else to reveal their 2 highest. Or I can flip over one in the middle. But the second those cards do not match, your turn is over and it goes to the next person. One of 3 ways to win. Get the lucky number 7s, which fall right in the middle, which means they're also in the middle of your hand. They're super hard to get. Get 3 sets of numbers, or get 2 sets of numbers that add up or subtract to a sum total of 7. It's fantastic. My kids and my family absolutely are in love with it. Speaking of games that are going to be the most played of the year, of all of the games so far I've mentioned that with, this one probably has the best shot. Probably right now. And I really do like it. The Japanese card stock, though, one of my kids bent one of the cards and it does not unbend. It's not good card stock. It's very stiff and it's not great for shuffling either. But that'd be the only reason I'd consider picking up, well, a different copy, another copy, right? Another copy. He's even considering buying two, right? To give away or just to have one so that we don't worry about ruining the first one. Then we're going with Intent to Kill. I was really impressed by this import from 25th Century Games. Mainly, I would just play it as a two-player deduction style. Go around a grid, get some asymmetric powers. I think you really need the advanced mode as you're going up cop versus murderer with just this deduction whodunit, more deduction, interesting aspects and features mechanically speaking than, personally speaking for me, Scales of Fate that I covered as well recently. I like the deduction aspects of Intent to Kill better. Scales of Fate may win me over as time goes on, but I just felt like I wanted more out of it too. And so we're splitting hairs here more than anything else. But it plays in 30 to 40 minutes. My wife really enjoyed it, which again is a huge factor when we're talking about this sort of thing as well. It's, a little bit more chaos with the advanced mode with the asymmetric powers on each side, which makes it a little bit less deducty, which I kind of really like as well. And the fact that 25th Century Games is bringing it over, I mean, it's a killer game. Haha, I didn't even mean to do that. I'm sorry. Believe me, that was not intentional. And all of my regular viewers are going, yeah, he's not that smart. He doesn't plan these things out. So that one is making the shortlist as well as one of the best surprises of this year in addition. Then Eternal Decks. Eternal Decks as well is just an outstanding, fantastic cooperative game. And I've seen a couple questions, queries, and comments about replayability and scene stages because it gives you 6 scenes as you have a very limited number of cards that are color-based and you can only lay them in rows based on certain constraints that are put upon you by the scenario or by the game in the first place. And you're having to unlock certain objectives and then completing these rows gives you more cards to your deck because if your deck ever runs out, you lose. And it's a cooperative, meaning you can't really communicate. There's very limited communication, but if any one of your people runs out in terms of cards, then you all lose as well because you only start with so many and you have to fill these rows before you run out and then you get an enemy deck, but then the enemy deck adds a constraint to the game as a whole nother layer of difficulty in potentially more than one way. And so the replayability is there. You can create your own modes if you want. You can do objectives that they give at the end of the game. There's plenty because the dynamics of what you grab and how things are dealt is no issue in terms of replayability in my mind, at least right now. So I don't have any questions, concerns, or issues with it from that aspect. And then Slay the Spire. Yeah, I'm impressed by it so far. I'm impressed by it. I like what I've seen. I like the dynamics. I like the roguelite style of things. I think that a lot of other games are going to look at this even more like the recently launched and funded Rise of Myths Cthulhu from Synergic Games, where you're going to build off of this sort of like, I'm not going to make a full comparison there to Kingdom Death, but you saw what Kingdom Death did. And it spawned just a host of imitations, some much better, Aeon Trespass Odyssey, and some not quite as good. I won't mention any other names. But it's basically a game that a lot of other games I feel like are going to get inspiration from, are going to spin off and create their own unique feature of this system going further and farther. And not only then also does it have the video game tie-in that appeals to non-gamers, it just strikes all those boxes where the expectations were already high and it exceeded it, just like, Lord of the Rings 7 Wonders Duel last year. So I can't say enough good things about it in that regard. And then last but not least, because again, it's not least right now, Azul Duel. I like it. Again, the complaint, the argument with Azul Duel, Everdell Duel, Splendor Duel. Well, I like those games at 2-player anyway. They play fine at 2-player games anyway. You're right, they do. But this does offer a different spin. I'll make that argument. I will argue with you in the comment section if you don't think it does. I think it does do things differently. Yes, I think Azul plays great at 2 players, I wouldn't say Splendor plays awesome at 2 players. I wouldn't say King of Tokyo plays good at 2 players, right? Like, no. But this does, and I'm okay with that, and it gives me a slight spin off of it. I would be happy with either Azul Duel or Azul Regular. I'd still probably give the edge out to Azul, but I don't think there's a negative here either. I don't think that one obliterates or makes the other obsolete. I think you can play either depending on player count and depending on flavor of the night and how you feel. And that's a freaking good test of a game. Now we're going to splurge a little bit here because it's not really a true what were the best ones of this year when I'm throwing other ones too. So we'll give you a few extra to kind of compensate there. Creature Caravans was also high on my list of games that if I would have had this in 2024, it might have made my top 10, even though that top 10 was amazingly difficult already in the first place. I like the dice worker placement. I like the combo-driven engine tableau system. I kind of like moving across the center. That's by far and away the weakest part. But just the, give me a big deck of randomness and say, do what you can and do the best you can as you're doing it. I like that a lot. Similarly, it wasn't really technically a year release yet, but Everdell Silverfrost is better to me than any of the other Everdell versions. And so it also makes you realize that you can make a complete game. You can make a complete game with a couple other elements and not need to get expansions. Oh, he said what he said. You don't need expansions. Them's fighting words. But I like the additional little fire on the mountain mechanic, giving you those cool, awesome creatures to give you just better stuff. I still wish it utilized the Everdell Duo rotating system of worker placement spots. And so that's sort of a 1A to 1B. I like the Everdell Duo. I know other people aren't as big of a fan. And again, I think it still slots under Azul Duel for me overall, speaking of the two-player dueling games that have come out recently. But it's worth at least a mention that I could see myself as a more streamlined, I don't want to play Everdell for an hour to an hour and a half, and I just want to play it in 25 minutes version. I like that. Even though, again, you can make the argument it's not doing anything unique enough at a two-player element as well. And then, you know what, speaking of the other crowdfundings, the most impressive crowdfunding game that came out of nowhere this year, again, very close to a finished copy, sort of like Everdell, was Fable. I think that game is going to be just something really, really fun. Mechanically speaking, it's very straightforward. Use your cards from your hand to buy and attack stuff. Gather more stuff, rinse and repeat. But a few of the nuances that it does with the marker or with the enemy battling or the symbology that's needed to take out the monsters to match or give resistance or do double, it is just kind of cool. It works well. I am a big fan of the artwork in addition. And so it's not going to blow your socks off, probably. It's not going to be the mechanical piece de resistance that you're looking for. But again, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. And that's the other thing I'll say. And one last extra here as well. I see myself either having this in the top 10 of the year or going down a couple notches significantly. And that's Scales of Fate from IV Studios. Because again, they pretty much send a finished product out as well, which is kind of nice to say, okay, what is this going to look like? And so I could see that one growing on me sort of in a mind bug situation, as I've said elsewhere, or just, again, getting sort of smothered or taken over by the tidal wave of other two-player dueling games that are out there, just by the slightly different deduction mechanics and the placement and the bumping across that it gives. It is, arguably, significantly different in the sense compared to Azul or King of Tokyo or Everdell, like I was just mentioning, than its predecessor of Veiled Fate. So if you're looking for more of a two-player version like that does stand out more, I think that one actually does a much better job than those other ones I mentioned, which also makes me very excited for the upcoming Flamecraft Duel as well, doing something very similar along those lines. And that is my top games, 10-ish, of the quarter one so far. And the tricky point is, there might even be a game or two on this list that didn't make this list from quarter one that grows on me more, like Scales of Fate, like I mentioned. Things like that are good, folks. It's not like this is the end-all be-all list. And of these things, recapping, I guess, as a whole, Eternal Decks, very likely to remain on the list. Fellowship of the Ring Trick-Taking, very likely to remain on the list. Marvel Dice Throne X-Men, not as high as the first two, but still pretty high. Azul Duel is a maybe. I could see that one getting edged out. Trios, just with how much fun factor there is and the fact that it's not a 2025 game, that could make it lower, but it's going to be a stay in our collection and it might be the most played regardless of year. Yomi 2, I only have a prototype, so it's a great surprise, but it's probably not going to stay on the list just because I want the final copies to be able to talk about games of the year situations. Marvel Multiverse is almost guaranteed to be on the list as much as the first ones. Bloodlines, we don't include expansions, so it's probably surprising people that I'm even putting this because, you know, main lists of top 10s of the year don't include expansions because they don't get the clicks. Compile main, again, may or may not, just because, again, if we're really being stringent on the 2024 category, it may not. Same with Slay the Spire. And Intent to Kill is kind of an import 2025-ish, although 2024 was technically the release. So we'll see. So a lot of maybes, you know, 3 or 4 almost certains, but then the rest, you know, 6-ish, easily could be replaced between now and quarter 2, replaced again quarter 3, and completely different by quarter 4. And that's the fun part of this, because I guarantee you there will be great games coming out there as well. So there you go. Have a great freaking fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Let me know what's on your list so far this year. Surprises, highs, lows. Crowdfunding video coming soon, as well as the random, super random Liege of Game-ism award situations. I should work on my phrasing better at the end of the videos, but no one watches this part anyway. Comment down below. Peace out. Stay classy.